you start recording? Go. Kia ora everybody, welcome to the Wairarapa Policy Working Group Wairarapa Consolidated Bylaw hearings on the Thursday the 14th of August. Before we begin the meeting, if we could be outstanding for our karakia matana. Mai te mai mo raro ki te tai, mai te awa tonga, ro ki te awaraki, tēnei te hapori, ia i tātai. Whānau, haere te hoki, uie, tai here. So it gives me great pleasure to declare the meeting open. Welcome everyone to the meeting to hear the submissions, as I mentioned before, on the Wairarapa Consolidated Bylaw. Once hearings conclude this afternoon, this meeting will close. The meeting is being recorded and it will be made available on the three councils' websites. I'm Robin Campbell, Chair of the committee and current councillor at Carterton District Council. I'll hand over to my fellow members.
Craig Bowyer, Marsden District Council Councillor.
Colin Olds, Councillor, South Wairarapa District Council.
Steve Brittany, Deputy Mayor, Carden District Council.
And online we have
Melissa Sadler-Footer, Deputy Mayor, South Wairarapa District Council.
Thank you. Can you introduce yourself?
Kia ora, I'm Sophie Bradley, Senior Policy Advisor at Marsden District Council.
Fantastic, thank you. So the hearings information was provided to submitters is in our full agenda on page 96. Just a reminder that each submitter has 10 minutes, so we encourage them to speak in support of their submission, and 7 minutes to speak and allow 3 minutes for questions from the members. Again, reminding the elected members of the committee that we approach the hearings with an open mind to take into account all of the written and oral submissions when it comes to our deliberations, and that we're here to listen to the submitters so we can ask questions to clarify or to get submitters to elaborate on particular points in their submission. The hearings are not an opportunity for elected members to comment on the submissions, engage in debate with submitters, answer questions of submitters, offer solutions, or indicate that they support or otherwise any submission. Moving on, so we have apologies. So I would like to move that the Wairarapa Policy Working Group accepts the apology for non-attendance from Councillor Nelson from Marsden District Council. I would just like on the record to note that as chair, it has been a little frustrating that Councillor Nelson has been unable to attend many of our workshops and meetings and hearings. So just on the record, that's been a little challenging for the rest of the members on the committee. And also we had a last minute apology from Councillor Bosley from South Wairarapa District Council. Do I have someone that would like to second those? Thank you, Councillor Bowyer. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. I might also like to note that Deputy Mayor Sadler-Footer will need to leave at 2 p.m. Unfortunately, Melissa has a funeral to attend this afternoon, and that Councillor Olds has been appointed by South Wairarapa District Council to ensure that we have a quorum on our team. Now, I would like to ask any members if they have any conflicts of interest on any of the submissions or anything in relation to the agenda for today's meeting. Okay, there being no conflicts of interest. We have reports for decision. It's the Wairarapa Consolidated Bylaw Hearings Report. We have 8 submitters that wish to be heard today. We have in front of us a copy of the hearing schedule and also the submissions from the submitters that are speaking, as well as a full set of submissions that all members have read prior to this meeting. And now, enough from me. I'd like to hand over to the Marsden District Council Senior Policy Advisor, Sophie Bradley, to present her report.
Thank you, Chair. I will take the report as read, but I will bring some aspects to your attention. The purpose of the report is for the working group to receive the submissions on the Wairarapa Consolidated Bylaw. Since the working group last met in May, we had to update our consultation timeframe to accommodate the changes to Part 9, water supply, This meant Part 11 trade waste went out for consultation with its own statement of proposal on the 23rd of May to comply with the LGA requirements of that bylaw. Parts 1 to 10 opened for consultation on the 25th of June and consultation on all parts closed on the 25th of July. We notified a range of stakeholders and licence holders of the opportunity to have their say. More details on this will be covered in the deliberations report, which will be sent to you tomorrow. We received 55 submissions on the bylaw, 3 of which were on the trade waste bylaw. Further analysis of these submissions and options to progress the bylaw will be included in the deliberations report. We are expecting 8 submitters to present today, either in person or online via Teams. Following this meeting, you will deliberate next week on the 19th to make recommendations back to the 3 Wairarapa district councils to consider at their meetings in September. For CDC and South Wye, that's probably going to be the 10th of September and NDC 17th of September. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie. Are there any questions for Sophie on her report? There being no questions, again, thank you, Sophie, for all the work that you've been putting in behind the scenes and all the information you've been sending to us as members. It's really, really appreciated. It gives me pleasure to invite our first submitter, Deb Butterfield, if you'd like to to the table. So, as I said, we have 10 minutes. A bell will ring in about 6 or 7 minutes, just to let you know. If you don't take your full 10 minutes, that's also fine.
That's good.
And just a reminder that you are speaking to your submission and extra points.
So,
The floor is yours. Welcome.
right, so I've prepared a few notes. So, my name's Deb Butterfield and I live in Tanui. So we moved to Tanui, myself, husband, Ray, and our family of young children that there were then in 2001. And we moved to Tanui because we loved the rural environment and we loved being close to Castle Point Beach. So we absolutely loved that beach and going for walks along it, etc. And we also operate a business out there too. So we've got the Tanui Food Forest. So we have we've got accommodation and we've got guided walks so people can go for walks. And the Castle Point Beach experience is, just part of a convenient sort of like complement to what we offer. So that's why we moved to Tanui. So my submission here is a personal one for us, but I did take the opportunity of talking to a few of the tourism operators in the area. And so that's Castle Point and then just in the Tanui Castle Point region. And also I talked to a couple of Castle Point locals and a member of the Castle Point Fire Service. And so I was going to start off by just talking about Castle Point, which is it's an iconic. It's not an understatement to say Castle Point is iconic and dramatic and one of the top 10 most loved beaches in New Zealand. And that image of the Castle Point Lighthouse and the lagoon. So it's everywhere. It's a very widely used piece of scenery for New Zealand and being promoted. So if you watch the TV1 news on TV, there it is. You arrive at Wellington Airport, there it is. Big, almost life-size picture on the wall. And now I've mentioned it to you, I can guarantee wherever you go, you will see images of Castle Point. So I think it's important not to underestimate Castle Point and the impact of that dramatic scenery in terms of its importance for New Zealand and for the Wairarapa as a destination and a loved destination. We get lots of international visitors there. I have absolutely no facts or figures to back me up on that, but just from we go regularly to the beach at least once a week. And particularly when you go to the lagoon, there's a car park by the lagoon basin area. That's always jam-packed full of young international tourists. So it's quite a destination, and it's obviously popular with locals. visitors, so it's beachgoers, families. You often see children just walking around the area by themselves, you know, with the sand buckets, having a lovely time, all that sort of stuff. Dogs, people going fishing, surfies, you name it, we're all there having a great time. And the problem is the beach is also a road. So it's a sand road. It can be very narrow, like if the tide's in, it can be a narrow stretch of sand. Also, like just recently, the landscape's changed dramatically. There's been a lot of erosion of the sandhills. So when cars use that road, so they're trying to, you know, navigate sand, which can be soft or firm, hard to tell. There's hidden rocks just beneath the sand. So it can be quite tricky for drivers to drive it. You know, and I have to say, if they go too slow, they can get stuck as well. So, you know, it's a bit of skill, and there's a lot of unskilled drivers. So the shared use can be tricky with the people. We've got people and kids and dogs and, you know, horses and you name it, they're there. It's not, I wouldn't be exaggerating to say that most times when we go there, you're looking at some incident or another. There's always something happening in terms of cars and four-wheel drives. You know, they've lost a bit of a bumper or, you know. So there's been some serious incidents over the years. But, you know, luckily not many. December 2013, there was a 22-year-old was airlifted to the hospital in critical condition after their car rolled on the beach. Now, I don't know, but I suspect somebody died in that accident too. There was 2 people involved. December 2011, 2 girls aged 9 and 10 were injured after being run over by a quad bike. So the bike drove over the sand dunes, became airborne and landed on the 2 girls. And these are just like, this is, you know, thanks to Google, these are just the reports I could find. But as I say, I spoke to the one of the fire people there, and he said there was another accident, involved a quad with an inexperienced driver, turned sharply, hit at a bump in the sand or a rock, and came to grief. Oh, that's my notice, is that? Right. Okay, right. We could. So basically, yeah, we go for a lot of walks. We see a lot of incidents, and the reason I'm here today, I mean, it does annoy me. Like, we've got dogs we take for walks, and your dogs are over there. We're here. The cars are zooming along. About 6 weeks ago, we went for a walk Sunday afternoon, and a car came over the sand dunes, really soft sand, over the sand dunes, and then proceeded like, you know, I'm here, my dogs are over there, and I'm going, watch out for my dogs, and went down the basin, and he's doing these incredible wheelies, and he just like on 3 wheels at times, had a passenger as well. Really scary stuff. You know, like we're just waiting, and you think, you know, silly beggar's going to hurt himself, you know, and his passenger. So it's not great. So yeah, we felt very unsafe when we had to stop our walk. So based on that sort of background, my thoughts I don't mind seeing vehicles on the beach. We don't want to see the risk to the damage to the dunes, the sand dunes, of people, like you're always seeing quad bikes and mostly quad bikes going over the dunes, but never cars, apart from that one time we saw it. But it's just the unpredictability of people driving on sand dunes, hidden rock, etc. So what I'm thinking is, like, I support the 10 km/h speed limit. And the thought is that having that 10 km speed limit on the books would be useful for when there are problems, particularly like at busy times when there is a police presence. So that would be useful for them to be able to enforce something. However, like I had one person saying she wasn't going to bother coming along and submitting because there's no way to enforce it. So what's the point? So what I've been thinking about that, it's the enforcement. Anybody can whip up a 10 km sign. How are you going to enforce it? So I reckon my thoughts is that in addition to that 10 km signage, We need signage outlining, for example, expected behaviour on the beach, penalties arising, but for bad behaviour. And then it could even be some examples of good use, which is surfies going surfing, fishermen going fishing, sort of. So you could outline the good uses, because there's a lot of people go out there to do wheelies. Also, I was just thinking, could there be some sort of hotline number for people to report bad behaviour, problems on dunes, doing wheelies? Because it's very, it's destroying the dunes. So, for example, when that last one I did of the guy doing all the wheelies, I took a video, and I've got a relative who's a policeman. He said if he had a registration number, the police could be interested in following up on that vehicle. So if people do have evidence of bad behaviour, it could be potentially, used as evidence. So that's pretty much my submission. So basically, luckily there's not many accidents on the beach. Most of them, there's lots of small accidents. Damage to the dunes. So I see the 10-kilometre speed restriction as a good start, as long as it's coupled with effective signage and maybe some sort of follow-up capability. And I do think it's important we at least attempt to make the beach safe and pleasant for all, which it isn't at the moment with some of those drivers. Castle Point is iconic for its scenic beauty. Let's not diminish the beauty and appeal of the place for all its residents and visitors, both national and international.
Thank you so much, Deb. Thank you. I know the 10 minutes is up, but do we have any questions?
Thanks.
Can you just repeat the dates? You mentioned 2 accidents there?
Yeah,
Can you
both
just
in
13 and 2011?
December, so
Yeah.
the peak time. And one of them was December 2013.
Yeah.
And the other, that was the airlifted one, the 2 people airlifted. And the December 2011 was the 2 girls,
Thank you.
9 and 10 years old. And then the other recent accident, that was from the fire service person. Yeah.
Melissa, do you have any questions? No? Any further questions? Thank you so much, and thank you for taking the time, and please assure anyone that when we do have opportunities for the public to make submissions, it is worth their time submitting, and we really appreciate it, because if we don't, as the 3 councils, we don't hear from the public, then it makes our job more challenging to know what's happening on the ground. So thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Deb.
Okay.
Adrian Hay is next, but she is not online, but we do have Brenda West who is ready. So you can.
Okay, so yep. So just a couple of minutes. So Brenda's submission is on page 11. About gender.
We can. Adrian joins and we can.
It's more than happy.
Just admit.
So,
She's online now.
Brenda, hi, welcome. You're on mute.
There we go. How's that?
Excellent, thank you. So welcome. Just a quick recap, because I don't think you were online earlier. You have a total of 10 minutes, so 6 to 7 minutes to speak to your submission. And then if you wish to allow time for questions from the members, that's great. A bell will ring at about 6 or 7 minutes, just to give you a heads up. And just a reminder that your submission, you're speaking to your submission. So if you keep to that, that will be fabulous. We've all read your full submission, so over to you.
Fantastic. Hopefully I'll keep this nice and short. So I'm going to read. First of all, kia ora, your worship, councillors and council staff. My name's Brenda West and I'm a ratepayer for the South Wairarapa district. I'm here today to talk about some parts of the public places bylaw, and in particular 2 sections that directly affect how our towns look and feel and do business. First, outdoor dining, in particular section 9, clause 9.2. It says that we must keep at least 2 metres off the footpath at all times. 3, clear. And that no person should be prevented or restricted from exiting their vehicle or parking or in any parking space. I'd then like to point out signage, section 8, clause 8.3, where it says that sandwich boards on footpaths must also leave at least 2 metres clear space. On paper, I'm sure that this sounds absolutely reasonable, and yeah, it absolutely does. But in reality, they don't always fit with the streets and spaces we actually have. Parts of our towns were built with narrow footpaths, veranda posts, lamp posts, and taking consideration with rubbish bins. In many cases, our street fronts actually have parallel parking, which causes the issues that I'm going to point out in a moment. So even without the sandwich boards, cafe tables being 2 metres clear space just isn't there to begin with. And here's why it really matters. Most of our towns rely on passing traffic. People won't stop if they don't know if a business is open. Let me give you a personal example from just a couple of weeks ago. Just a moment, I'll just sorry about that. It's working in an office. From personal experience, when I was heading to Wellington the other day, I stopped at the intersection that leads onto a state highway. And, I was really wanting my little caffeine fix before I actually hit the hill. So I kind of poked my nose quite safely out onto the road, and I looked down the road to see if my favourite cafe was open, if I could see their sandwich board. Bingo, I was in. So instead of me going right to take the motorway to Wellington, I turned left, made a slight detour, because I could clearly see from their sandwich board that business was open. So in doing so, I put my money into a local business. By doing that, that one purchase helped them keep going. It helped keep their employees current, and it actually helps pay towards their rates. And like I said, this was all because I could actually see their sandwich board. I'd like to bring the focus back to section 9.2, the rule about not blocking someone from exiting their cars. It's a good rule in theory, but on our main streets, with the posts, the bins, the parallel parking, the challenge isn't the sandwich boards. It's the street design itself. I like to think that these bylaws are written with a future in mind. A future where our towns have the wider footpaths and a better layout. But until then, I really do believe that we need to have a more flexible approach, one that works for the towns that we have right now. Because the bylaws are there to keep our streets safe, they are important. But it's also we need to take into consideration about keeping our towns alive. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying perhaps be a bit more flexible in the way that the bylaws are written. That's all I've got to say, guys. I'm open for questions.
Thank you so much, Brenda, and thank you for your personal story as well on sort of being able to see the sandwich board and taking a left instead of a right. So thank you for that. I will open up to my fellow members for any questions.
None from me. Thanks, Brenda.
Brenda, thank you for your presentation. in your submission, you talk about a 1.5 metre possible compromise.
I'm talking about a compromise. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just trying to reach out and say, well, can we compromise on how we actually write that bylaw and just take into consideration of today's infrastructure, the way that the streets are designed at this minute. I'm sure that in future we can actually better plan our towns and the streets in the way that they're laid out. But at the moment, perhaps a bit more of a flexible approach.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brenda. Thank you for taking time to put a submission in, and also your time today to present to your submission. It really is appreciated.
No, that's great. You've got some gnarly ones coming up. Have a look. So I was just hoping to make this a bit more approachable. So because I know that I've sat on that
Very
side
good.
of the table.
Yeah, we know you have. It's great to see your face again.
No,
So
thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Brenda.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We're sort of ahead of time-ish. Have we heard?
I've texted Ms. Hay to see if she still wants to come. I'll let you know if she.
Okay.
The next is Greytown Heritage Trust, and just and see if they're waiting.
Oh, yeah. We'll just. Oh yeah, no, I think I can see Mr. Rowland's just in the corridor. So,
Oh yeah, I'll let you know if she gets me back in.
okay, yeah, I think Mr. Rowland's is here, so we might be able to. Wondering if it's worth letting the other presenters who are also online know that we potentially running slightly ahead of schedule.
I'll let Tanya know. And
Afternoon, Mr. Rowlands.
Good afternoon.
How are you today? You are running ahead of time, so are you. So if you're more happy,
Not complex, it's quite quick, so we're more ahead of time.
oh, fabulous. I know that you have come and presented on this vocabulary, similar format, so 10 minutes in total. It was, if you choose to allow time for questions, and a bell will ring about 6-7 minutes for you anyway. And you have taken notes for us. Fabulous, thank you. We have all read your submission as well. So.
Very different.
And this is online. So that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Over to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity. As trust with principal kind of ambition is to protect and enhance the heritage character of Greytown. And we've got a long-standing interest in ensuring signage and public realm standards uphold the unique identity of the town. But in terms of background, for many years the Trust has consistently raised concerns with the Council regarding the proliferation of non-compliant signage within the Greytown Heritage Precinct, and this includes sandwich boards obstructing footpaths, projecting oversized signage,
What is that lunchtime?
inconsistent with heritage design guidelines, and design signs that visually clutter and detract from the historic streetscape. And there's a sense that enforcement has been lacking. So the submission point, the support for stronger enforcement, and the Trust supports the bylaw provisions requiring removal of non-complying signs within 14 days of notice, and Council's ability to impose fines or pursue prosecution where breaches persist. And Trust view is that it's essential to uphold the amenity, accessibility and safety of Greytown's public spaces. Any visit at the weekend and people will know that the streets and pavements are incredibly busy. And in some areas, it's like an obstacle course for them. Clarification of existing use rights. And we're seeking clear confirmation that existing use rights only apply to signs lawfully established at the time of erection. So, not signs that endure through habit. Many older signs in Greytown have never complied with the district plan or heritage guidelines and can't therefore claim existing use rights. And the council retains the ability and responsibility to enforce removal or compliance upgrades for signage. So 3.3, sandwich boards and business significance. The Heritage Trust supports and control a permit-based system for sandwich boards with strict design and location controls to protect the heritage character of the town centre. We recommend that council implement a permit system allowing a maximum of one sandwich board per retailer with street frontage, and only where the total signage allowed to the property has not been exceeded. Both sides of the sandwich board should be included in the total signage area calculation. Sandwich boards must not result in any breach of the signage rules. Existing signage limits must be enforced consistently, and the existence of historic breaches shouldn't be used to justify non-compliance signage today. There's the question of businesses located down laneways without street frontage or south of Constable Street, north of Kuratapiti Jalka, where additional sandwich boards could be provided. But as proposed in our Greytown Trust Style Guide, this should be limited in number, discreet in placement, and consistent with the heritage character of the town centre. Shared or group signage may be a more effective and visually coherent solution in these locations, and there are some examples. In all cases, the maximum signage limits set out in the district plan should not be exceeded. The use of business or promotional flags isn't supported by the Trust, as they're visually modern and detract from the heritage streetscape. If any such flag style signage is to be permitted, it should form part of the signage permit system and be included again in the total signage area for the property. This would not apply to council-managed street flags used for seasonal or civic events. We note that at least one retailer has displayed 8 additional sandwich boards and flags, well in excess of any reasonable or permitted level of signage. And that's a consistent habit. It's always outside that business. This illustrates the need for clear rules and active enforcement to protect the integrity of Greytown's distinctive landscape. We continue to support the general prohibition of sandwich boards on footpaths, recognising these create accessibility hazards, particularly for mobility impaired residents and visitors. Any exceptions must meet the above requirements. Heritage character protection. We'd like to request that the bylaw explicitly references the need to comply with the district plan heritage provisions and associated heritage design guidelines, including considerations of scale, materials, colour and illumination. Council undertakes a heritage signage audit to identify and address existing non-compliant signage systematically. And temporary community event signage, the Trust seeks that clarity that temporary signs for community events such as Greytown Christmas Festival is permitted under clear, simple guidelines specifying placement, size, duration, to avoid confusion with commercial signage restrictions. So in conclusion, the heritage streetscape is central to its identity. It's what lures people here. It's the thing that drives the economy and the community affection for the place. Effective signage controls and robust enforcement are critical to manage this character for future generations. the Heritage Trust urges Council to adopt bylaw provisions that prioritise heritage protection, ensure pedestrian safety, and remove non-compliant signage. Thank you.
Thank you. I will open up the questions. I have one question, and it's, we have been speaking specifically around Greytown and the Heritage Precinct. And in your conclusion, where you have those 3 points, ensuring pedestrian safety and remove non-compliant, is that specifically for Greytown only, or is that for the Wairarapa?
It's for Greytown.
So Greytown specific. Okay. Thank you so much. Questions from any of my fellow?
I've just got a question around, just in your point 4, under your conclusion, around robust enforcement.
Yeah.
How would you anticipate that being undertaken by councils?
Very good question. I would have said it was for the council to decide how that was undertaken and how that was ensured. I know that in the past there has been agreement that something has trespassed against the agreed criteria, but it's not necessarily to alter the habit. So, you know, there are examples within the Heritage Precinct of, you know, like evidence transgressions. I mean, I would probably, and this is a personal response, not a trust response, imagine actually this is about the way you negotiate with people and get them to understand their responsibility and their contribution to a precinct. And that actually they benefit from robust management of the environment, that it's something that enables rather than disables. And I think there's one of the interesting things is that there's very ambivalent research signs and their efficacy. Marketeers tend to say that signs are incredibly efficient for promoting business. There's other research evidence, particularly American research evidence, that suggests that that's not the case and that people get confused by it. And having worked in an environment in the National Library, when librarians are given to signs, it becomes very evident that people don't read them. And what they will do is they will find other ways of getting the information they need or want. So there's a kind of panic, I think, in the marketing through signs, where they just proliferate. I mean, the one business that has 7 to 8 outside business, and it does today because I came up past you just now counted. It's kind of panic in their mind, I think, that they won't get the footfall if they haven't got it all out there on the street.
Sorry, just really a point of clarification, probably for my information, is that you talk about existing use rights for some of the signage that's currently in the town there. Would there be much of that? I mean, I've been in Greytown a long time, certainly seen some changes over the years. So would you consider this a large quantity of existing use right signage?
I'm given to understand there is, yes. Now there's established existing rights for signage, but then there are signs that simply trespass on again, you know, that name.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I've actually got a question, clarification.
Yeah.
So, notwithstanding this document, in your key points on your proposal, under C, you say sandwich board policy, prohibit footpath sandwich boards, okay, except for premises without street frontage. But then under 3.3, you say you support a controlled.
And so it's not controlled. The original document has been challenged within the trust.
Yeah.
So it's about a control of the environment.
So you're not seeking, as in the first part, total prohibition? Thank you.
Because there's a number of consultants on the trust who pointed to that becoming an impediment for people.
Thank you.
I know we're 10 minutes up. Melissa, did you have any further questions? No. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving us the speaking notes. It does make it easier for us as well, and your time today.
Thank you. Thank you for your time today. I'm grateful to you that this is the last time we did this.
So we now have Tanya. Thank you for joining us a little early. We're running slightly ahead of time. You'll have 10 minutes to speak to your submission. We've all read your submission, and thank you for such a in-depth, fulsome submission as well. It was really, really great. I mean, I personally found it very interesting. So I'd like to hand over to you. A bell will ring at 7 minutes. So if you did want to allow time for questions, you'll hear the 7-minute bell, but over to you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'll just check in. You can hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Well, thank you for the opportunity just to speak to you this afternoon. Knowing that my submission has been taken as read, I'll just give a very brief summary to allow more time for questions. Through my submission, it's detailed my experience in this field. And to be clear, this is really around Part 8 of your bylaw specifically. The other parts are not really in my wheelhouse, to be fair. But I really want to commend you for maintaining a bylaw of this kind in terms of looking to update and refresh it. As you may be aware, there are very limited bylaws of this kind for these industries currently within New Zealand, which is something that I'm personally working very hard with our government to try and change, which is nothing short of an uphill battle, I can assure you. And in the meantime, we rely on these bylaws to be as robust and consistent across the country as possible. So a lot of my submission in specific detail through track changes version of your bylaw back to yourselves as a hearings committee and also to senior staff as well in the Environmental Health Department was really just trying to highlight the need to be as consistent as possible in the wordings and how your bylaw is written so that it is reflective of current practices in the industry, but also so that it can be enforced correctly and consistently through staff as well. I mentioned in my submission that definitions, and in my opinion, this is where the real heart of a bylaw sits. You have to get your definitions right to know exactly from a legal perspective what you're talking about and who's doing what. So that doesn't just give clarity to your operators to know where they sit with this bylaw, but it really helps your staff to actually uphold and enforce the bylaw as well. I did note throughout the bylaw that there was a little bit of inconsistency and confusion amongst terms. My submission speaks to that specifically around what is a commercial service or a prescribed process. So I would urge the committee to have a close look at that and really shoot for one term over the other, as opposed to a mishmash of both, which just again aids that readability and how your bylaw is going to be applied. Through my experience, not just in my own council in Dunedin, but more specifically through my national role with the New Zealand Institute of Environmental Health, working with other organisations here and abroad, I can assure you that training qualifications is an area that is heavily talked about and heavily looked at. But the sad reality is that there are few qualifications and training opportunities available specifically for tattooists and skin piercers. So considering something such as a bloodborne pathogen training, where there are multiple opportunities here and abroad, most of those courses are online. The concept is the same. It doesn't matter if it's American training, for example, or Australian training. To get a tattoo is as risky here as it is any other part of the world in terms of the process, so that the information and the knowledge doesn't have to come from a specific source. So there's multiple opportunities and providers available for relatively low cost as well. But the benefits absolutely outweigh those inputs. And then finally, it's really just, again, that tidying up of terms. There's definitely been some throwback myth terms thrown around, such as hospital grade disinfectants and what sterilisation really means. And that just needs to be correct. It's a lot of terminology that laymen's will throw around, but actually it's very hard to enforce, and they're not necessarily things that actually exist. So look, overall, I've followed this bylaw since it's been around. So very pleased to see some updates and no major changes, but just hoping that it can be strengthened a little bit to just future-proof it and make it as robust as it can do. So I'm more than happy to go to any questions.
Thank you so much, Tanya. And thank you for taking the time and the interest in our bylaws. It's really important to have that input for us as a committee and as the councils too. I'll open to any questions from any members?
Not to really. No, I just support what you've just said, that having professionals in the field. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much. And as has been mentioned, we really do appreciate your really fulsome submission and your knowledge. So thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Have a great day.
Thank
Yes. Christine, hi, welcome. Thank you for accommodating us being slightly ahead of time. We have read your submission and invite you now to speak to it. You'll have 10 minutes. The bell will ring at 7. You don't need to use the full 10 minutes if you don't feel so. We have read the submission, and if you want to allow time for questions, I'll hand over to you.
Great, thanks. And I'm glad to be here today. If it's okay, I'm going to share my screen. I have a short presentation to work through, but I will. Can you see the title? I'm hoping it's.
We can indeed. Yep.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, really happy to be here today. And yes, we note that the proposed bylaw did not include cats. And what I wanted to do today was, as you read it, you have seen we have spent a lot of time advocating for the inclusion of cats in bylaws. And I just wanted to do a very high-level key points about why we did that. And if you have any further questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. So the biggest reason we advocate for bylaws to include controls around the keeping of cats is because we see a lot of the problems when we have what we would say is not the greatest responsible cat ownership. Our centers across the country, the number one animal that comes in needing help are kittens, and that's part of cats being the number one animal we deal with through our centers. The welfare problems that we see, we're looking at sick and injured cats and kittens. We are also seeing very vulnerable animals. These are the real young kittens that still need their mom. They're not going to survive on their own. And we also see older cats that just don't do well out and about. We also have issues with lost companion cats. So most companion cats in New Zealand are able to come and go from home. And so they are at risk of wandering off, and often they will be lost and they may come through our doors. And these cats don't necessarily do well outside of having that reliable care from their owner at their home. We also see what are problems with the population of cats in New Zealand. So not the individual welfare issues, but the broader problems with having what frankly is just too many cats. And we think through these negative impacts of cats. We see this in our stray cat and kitten populations. Some of these animals we will take into our care and others we won't, such as the healthy adult stray cat is a really big challenge for our organization. And it's a challenge for communities. We get nuisance complaints. We hear from people. We talk to them on the phone. They email us. We get media about nuisance. It is an ongoing issue that we do hear from people. And a lot of it's related to cats being cats, but this can cause nuisance. And the broader picture, I know outside the scope of the bylaws, is that overpopulation can have negative impacts on our wildlife. That being said, one of the important things we see as helping resolve these issues is cats to be desexed and microchipped. And importantly, desexing has benefits for individual cats, but desexing cats helps address problems with cats that are often linked with nuisance. So we see a decrease in aggression, and cats, when they fight, this can be problematic in communities, and this is often linked with sex hormones. We see reduction in spraying and marking, totally normal for a cat to do, but most people don't appreciate cat urine sprayed around their house. That's probably not shocking to say. And then also we see reduction in roaming. Roaming itself can be a big risk for a companion cat, but it's also linked with nuisance. And a lot of this is these unwelcome visits of cats in someone's yard. This could have problems for other companion animals in the house. The fighting can happen between cats, and that can have issues with veterinary care needed if cats get wounded. But importantly, again, back to this population issue, desexing the companion cat is really important for preventing the unplanned breeding, I like to say. Sometimes we call them the unwanted litters. But this is where companion cat owner has not yet or has not intended to desex their companion cat. And what can happen in these situations is that cat has kittens, and a healthy cat that's being fed and provided care can have multiple cat litters a year. And over her lifetime, this can really stack up. These kittens can die. Kitten mortality can be quite high, especially if it's unplanned breeding. A proportion of these kittens will enter our centers because they are sick or injured, or they're separated from their mother at a very vulnerable age. But a proportion of these kittens are healthy, and they go on to have kittens of their own, and we see this generational impact over and over again. And this contributes to stray cats in our communities, which is a source of nuisance. And this also contributes to a lot of what we will call owner surrender kittens. These are people who just frankly didn't get their cat desexed, and now they have a litter of kittens and they need help. And interestingly, the numbers in our data from Carterton, Masterton, and South Wairarapa is the number of kittens coming into our centers is heavily driven by this owner surrender category. There's a lot of different reasons why people might do owner surrender of kittens, but what that gives us indication of is there's a lot of cats that are not desexed, but that's someone's companion cat. Now, there's different mechanisms to address this. A bylaw is one of them, because frankly, some people need a motivation through a bylaw. Others need help. It is expensive to desex cats. But however, we do need multiple strategies to address this issue. Importantly, it really matters when these kittens are desexed. It makes sense. You want to do it before they can go into puberty and start breeding. But most people don't realize that their cat can go into puberty quite young. So we really need to have this happening at a younger age. We do it quite young through SPCA, but we advocate this is done by 4 months of age. Microchipping is also another important tool to help us deal with stray cats in our communities. A proportion of those stray cats are lost companion cats. They have just left home and they've become lost. More cats that are microchipped, if they are actually captured by somebody and scanned for microchip, we can quickly reunite them at home and remove those cats from the stray cat population. This can happen 5 years after the cat went lost. It is really incredible. Year after year, we hear stories of cats gone missing for years, and they're living as a stray in a community. So we think microchipping is a really important tool to help us get those cats back home, get them off the streets, but also help us reduce the number of days they're staying with us or other rescues and the costs that are associated with that. And why a bylaw? We know the conversation for a lot of places is just starting, and we want to propose this as a way to set an expectation about what responsible cat ownership is. We have to shift the norms. We have to get more cats desexed and microchipped, and that number has to be high and it has to stay high. Importantly, we do know places where a requirement to desex and microchip can help in very targeted instances where there is a nuisance complaint. There's 30 cats at a property, and one way to resolve that nuisance issue is to require that owner to microchip and desex those cats, and that can help in that situation. So what's happening locally? Real quickly, we have 19 councils that require limits on cats to some degree. This is usually an average of average of 3. It ranges from 2 to 5. And we increasingly have more councils that are passing bylaws for either desexing or microchipping, with most doing both. And you can see the trend. 2024 was a big year. And most of those places that passed bylaws, that was new to those districts. We know as an organization, a bylaw alone is not going to resolve cat issues in our communities. And anytime we talk about this, we have to also make the point, this is part of this suite of tools, this Steve strategies, that we also need to provide complementary services, and we see councils as playing a role in this. We work quite a bit with a lot of councils to work together to provide services and increase the ability for people to comply with a bylaw or just to get their cat desexed and microchipped. So we do a lot of work heavily subsidizing desexing and microchipping, working with local veterinarians and offering these services to people who need them. Cost is a huge barrier, and it's a really important one to overcome. But also the idea that improving communications, again, setting that tone. This is what responsible cat ownership looks like. These are some of our resources. We have tons. And if you ever want to reach out for more, we're happy to talk to you about this. We have posters in different languages. These are for downloaded and to be used free. Websites on councils communicating what is good information about responsible cat ownership. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And if you have any questions, I think I'm probably close to time, but happy to answer anything.
Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing the PowerPoint with us as well. That was very useful. Are you able to please forward that through to Sophie, and then we can have that with us for our deliberations next week? Thank you. Any questions? So you said a number of councils had come on board. 2024 was a big year.
Yeah.
I'm presuming that would be also because that's the cycle of when they were updating and reviewing their bylaws as we are now.
Yeah. Yes. And I guess I probably should offer, there were councils who didn't. So they did consult on their bylaws and decided not to include them. So it is a conversation for a lot of councils. And some of those councils, so this would be Hamilton and South Waikato, they at least are putting advice in their bylaws. So they're saying we've chosen not to include bylaws, but we know this is important. And so there is this movement forward with at least getting that messaging as part of the bylaw. But yeah, it's interesting. It was a big year for the bylaws cycling. I will say this too. It is early days for evaluating the bylaws. I'm sure there's a lot of questions around, do they work? And right now we don't fully know more than anecdotal or just little blips. And there's been repeated surveys in this country with cat owners and dog owners. And the latest one, Companion Animals New Zealand, it did show up in their data for reasons why people are microchipping and desexing, and a small proportion of them are doing it because there's a bylaw. So that is one indication we're starting to see it played out in, is this motivating people? And I think it's all about that motivation. And bylaw is the sharp end of the stick, and it can be used in different ways. Other councils are acknowledging this is an educative approach because this is going to take time. But we are seeing microchipping numbers going up. I think everyone's talking about it more, to be honest with you. And so I think there's value in that sharing this information and promoting it. And there are cat owners who don't even know they can microchip their cat. So yeah, there's different reasons for it.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time today and for taking your time to put a submission in as well for something that you're very passionate about, which is great to see.
Thank you very much. And I will follow up with my slides to your staff.
Lovely. Thank you, Christine.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Did we hear back from Adri?
No, Dr. Hannah hasn't messaged either. The next people up are Forest and Bird, and they are attending in person. I've messaged them to say that we're running ahead of time. So I'm not sure if they're already here or we might need to pause for a minute.
Yeah, I was just going to
Madam Chair, can I
be taking adjournment.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of calls to make. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have an adjournment and for 5 minutes or until Forest and Bird come. And if Mr. Martin does come online, then.
Great.
When, You're recording. Yeah. Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody back to the second part after our brief adjournment of the Wairarapa Policy Working Group, Wairarapa Consolidated Bylaw hearings. And we have our last submitter for the day is the Royal Forest and Bird Protection Society. Welcome, you'll have 10 minutes to speak. So if you sort of would like to allow questions, a bell will go at 7 minutes to let you know. We have read the submission. So over to you.
Thank you. We are a tag team, so there might be a bit of improvising going on here. Probably the primary message we wanted to give the council was, or the councils, is that there is a cat problem in Wairarapa that perhaps wasn't specifically addressed in the decision document that led to the notification of this bylaw. So we wanted to draw your attention to that. And we've actually canvassed our members for some examples to give you to demonstrate the scale of the nuisance across the combined districts, and Fiona will speak to that. And so I probably should say by introduction that I presented cat bylaw hearings in a lot of different councils, and a lot of the way they run their processes with a survey of the community to say, hey, what are the issues? And overwhelmingly, that usually comes back with cat-related problems that they think need addressing. So that could be another way of dealing with it in the future. So we, in our submission, drew attention to the fact that while the councils don't get reports of cat nuisance, that doesn't mean there aren't cat nuisance. And actually, usually you don't think, oh, I'll call Masterton District Council because I've got cats breeding in my neighbour's place. You think, oh, I'll call the SPCA because they're the cat people, right? And their submission totally confirmed that they do get nuisance complaints. There are nuisance cats in this district, and this bylaw would be a really good place to get on top of that, particularly on the basis that it's going to be 10 years till the next review of this bylaw, and in 10 years, what will the cat problem look like? So, yeah, we're requesting that there's a small re-notification of the bylaw for cat-specific provisions, and that has been done recently in Buller District. Exactly this happened where submitters overwhelmingly said, we disagree with what you're proposing, and they re-notified on very specific cat provisions and had a very small, narrow hearing on exactly that, and now have a really progressive bylaw that I encourage you to go look up. So yeah, we have lots of examples, and so we have hopefully enough time to run through them. We've tried to simplify them and make them as relevant as possible. And yeah, so that's Peter will take it from here.
Kia ora koutou. I'm Peter Campbell, and I am on the Masterton, Wairarapa Forest and Bird Committee. And we canvassed our members, and we've got submissions for examples from all over the world, all over from South Wairarapa through to Masterton. So here's the first one. There was a stray, this is South Wairarapa. There was a stray colony, cat colony at the end of our road. They were being fed by children. And the cats, I suspect, are wandering further afield. We often saw them in the bushes by the side of the road. We saw kittens too. Recently, I got a cat got into our chook shed or chook run and mauled a chicken to death. She was dreadfully injured. We put a live trap near the chook run and sure enough, the cat returned for more chooks, but we caught it and dispatched it humanely. We have live cat traps that we put around our property, and in 4 years, we've been trapping, we've caught 22 feral cats. And feral cats come from abandoned cats or, sort of like the next generation on. We've seen more around and they are a menace. This one's from Greytown, rural Greytown. After years of gardening for wildlife, we now have bellbirds visiting daily, probably nesting in our garden. We saw young were seen in the last breeding season. There's a risk to them from feral and or domestic cats. I have been subject to cats defecating in my garden and several properties where I have lived, and I have suffered 2 miscarriages, and both were attributed to toxoplasmosis, which is a disease, well, just a parasite that is only spread by cats in their feces, and cats are the only creatures that pass it on, but we can keep toxoplasmosis in our body. Once it's in, and it leads to, there you go, miscarriages or possible blindness. I live in a rural area that is frequently subject to kitten dumping, as I live at the end of a rural road. I'm part of a neighbourhood this is the same lady. I'm part of a neighbourhood trapping group, and feral cats are caught and dealt to. I wouldn't want to kill someone's pet, so if they were microchipped, we could find out who they belong to. But feral cats have no place in Aotearoa, so it would help if cats are identifiable. This one's from Martinborough. In a Martinborough village, a house burnt down where an old man kept a few cats. The cats were semi-feral, and then they multiplied to become a major nuisance in the village. I shouldn't laugh, sorry. With tensions arising between those who wished to protect the cats and those who thought they should be destroyed. They multiplied and became quite a nuisance to more than one business with their defecations, unpleasant smell, because they were nesting under buildings. I never thought that it would actually lead to people not being happy with other people, but of course it can do. About 4 years ago, on a visit to Martinborough Transfer Station, I observed a number of feral cats foraging on piles of waste, and I inquired, and it appeared that the waste management company regarded the cats as part of their rodent management strategy. When I complained to the South Wairarapa District Cat Executive, the cats finally did disappear. But I was astonished to find that that was a major predator control feature and also a breeding site for cats.
We could go on, but the buzz is gone. Shall we? I mean, we've got heaps of examples that we'd be quite happy to send in an email if it's helpful.
If you'd like, I could send it through as an email. We have deliberations next week. So
Yeah.
if you're able to forward that, then
That'd be great.
that can form part of our deliberations. Yeah.
Cool. Is that all right? So then we can take questions now in this way. We could go on, but we won't if you have questions for us.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for your presentation. Yeah, and it certainly seems to be a problem, but you've given us examples of South Wairarapa. I guess they've got cats in Masterton and Carlton, but
I hadn't got.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I see. So they'll be on your sheet. Oh, excellent. Yeah, bottom of the list. Thank you for that.
I've actually got a question.
Yeah.
You noticed in your submission, you talked about how you canvassed your members. Now, how many members of Forest and Bird?
130.
How many own cats? Yeah. How many own cats?
Branch.
Yep.
I don't know. Yeah, we didn't have.
You have 213 members.
230.
Yeah.
Feed him to it, mate.
A few of the people who submitted said I own a cat or I own 2 cats, but I have had them de-sexed.
Yeah.
I keep them, I keep them at night.
So you mentioned Buller.
Yeah,
Do you want to speak a little bit more
happy to.
about that? Just give us a quick overview of.
Yep, so they notified their bylaw. The earlier iteration of their bylaw was exactly what you have, which was just a 3 cat limit. So they notified a review like you are doing, but in that review they proposed microchipping, de-sexing and registration of the cat to the animals register, but they also proposed increasing the cat limit from 3 to 4. And this is when Vitriol came in and they were like, you can't do that. 4 cats is outrageous. You have to have 2 cats or fewer. And 0 citizens of Buller supported an increase in the limit, and everyone said, yeah, 2 or fewer. So they re-notified on that basis for an amendment on the bylaw and said, how do you feel about 2? And that's what eventuated. So they now have the 2 cat limit, compulsory microchipping, compulsory registration, and compulsory de-sexing in the whole district.
Thank you.
I just one other question.
Yeah.
So you talked about Buller has now got compulsory registration.
Yep.
How many other councils have got it?
I have the answer at my fingertips. So
My next question. We share the love round table.
I have a spreadsheet that I maintain because I track this nationally. There are only 5 councils in the country that have what Buller has. That is what we consider the golden, gold standard, which is microchipping, de-sexing, and a cat limit. But 27 councils nationwide have some form of cat regulation. The majority of those are a limit, and that's where it ends. But those are quite old bylaws, to be honest, and they are up for review. And I suspect that is absolutely changing. All of the councils that have notified their bylaws in the last 4 or 5 years, pretty much since Wellington notified its first ever microchipping and de-sexing. It wasn't de-sexing. I think it was just microchipping. In 2016, there's just been an upswell in councils initiating these things. So I've got the numbers here if you want them. Most councils of late haven't bothered with a limit, and they've just gone with de-sexing and microchipping because those are the two pretty standard regulations that are in bylaws these days. So yeah, I can.
It's just more specific around
Yep.
ones that are registered, the councils that are.
So microchipping comes with a little clause within it that says registering because, and it's normally to the companion animals register, which is run by Companion Animals New Zealand, which is a national.
So as opposed to a council register.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes. Sorry.
So they're not. It's not like dog registration, which is managed by council. It's the companions register.
Yeah, in the absence of
microchipping.
a cat control act like there is for dogs, this is how it's working now. It's in the Companion Animals Register, which is managed by a third party, not the council.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
That's all good. Any other
You
questions?
my spreadsheet.
Free to
Send it through.
Yeah, I think
free
it's
to
beneficial.
forward that to us.
Beneficial for
Yeah.
people that are away to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please feel free to send that through. No other questions? No.
Right.
Thank you so much for your time and for coming in person. It's always nice to have people in the room. Everyone, appreciate the time put into the submission and the work that you're doing. Thank you. Thank you very much.
If it doesn't get notified or re-notified, how long will we have to wait before it's reconsidered?
Pretty sure it's 10 years.
10 years. So it's 10 years before it gets revisited. And that's a lot of cats, isn't it?
2 million. Yeah.
A lot of toxic cats like us.
No doubt about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm presuming the other two. I can amend the recommendation. Yes, that's, yeah.
So 2 absentees, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really
Thanks.
appreciate it and look forward to getting the information.
I look forward to sending it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our hearings and from our submitters today. So I'll move to the recommendation in the officer's report. There is a slight amendment to the recommendation, and that we have had 6, not 8 submitters, as 2 did not appear. So I will read out the recommendations. It is recommended that the Wairarapa Policy Working Group 1, receives the full set of submissions on the Wairarapa Consolidated Bylaw and Part 11 Trade Waste Attachment 1. 2, notes that a total of 55 submissions were received. And 3, notes that 6 submitters have been heard in accordance with the hearing schedule Attachment 2 and the hearings procedure Attachment 3. Would anyone like to move that motion? Thank you, Councillor Boyer, and a seconder.
Sure.
Councillor Crackney, thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Thank you. So that motion is carried. The recommendations have been moved. The hearing has now concluded and the Wairarapa Policy Working Group will meet on Tuesday, the 19th of August at 3:30 p.m. for deliberations on the bylaw. So before I declare the meeting closed, if we would like to speak up here. Thank you, everyone, and I declare the meeting closed.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, team. At 2:22.
Oh, that was great.